This message comes from U.S. Bank. Simplify how you do business with Business Essentials, a powerful combination of no monthly maintenance fee checking and card payment processing. Deposit products are offered by U.S. Bank National Association, member FDIC.
So I'm curious to hear from the both of you. If given the opportunity, would you move away from the U.S. and live somewhere else?
I think it would be interesting to live temporarily in another country, but I think I would most likely always come back to the U.S.
I definitely would live someplace else if given the opportunity. Absolutely no problem. I think there's a part of me that's like, let's blow this popsicle stand. Sachi, same question to you, though I know you already moved from Canada to New York.
Yeah, I came here on purpose. Like, what am I going to do? Go back to Canada? They don't want me either. I'll tell you that.
Have you ever thought about leaving the U.S., starting over somewhere else? Maybe living the hygge lifestyle in Denmark or soaking up the sun in Costa Rica? I definitely have. And according to Gallup, a surprising number of other women are considering it as well. According to a poll released in November, 40% of women between the ages of 18 and 44 said they'd move to another country permanently if they had the chance. That's 4 times higher than it was a decade ago. And this sentiment among women is unique to the U.S. Only 19% of men in the same age group say they'd move. And Gallup says no other country has ever had that big of a gap on this question between younger men and younger women. But what's behind young women's willingness to imagine life elsewhere? And what does that say about the future of our country? I'm going to break it all down with Constance Grady, senior correspondent for Vox's culture team who covers gender.
Thanks so much.
And Sachi Koul. She's a senior writer at Slate, and she also co-hosted the podcast Where to Be a Woman for the BBC.
Thanks.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Okay, let's get right into this stat. About 40% of young American women are down to bounce out of here. What was your first reaction to this statistic?
Well, when I first heard it, my immediate reaction was to think, it's just the whole I'll move to Canada thing, right? Like every time a Republican wins the election, every Democrat I know is like, all right, time to start looking into moving to Canada. And we know that young women are overwhelmingly likely to be liberal or left wing. And it makes sense to me that that would carry through here. But it is so interesting that the numbers would jump up that dramatically. I think it's also really important to remind ourselves that this is like not 40% of women saying, yeah, I'm gonna actually emigrate and like starting the paperwork. I think a huge amount of a poll question like this is just kind of about signaling your state of mind. Looking at it as kind of a measure of protest is what's most interesting to me, rather than suggesting that like, yes, young women are going to start fleeing this country en masse.
It is an interesting thing to think about it as like a protest. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, yeah, you know, the only people who think they can escape America are Americans. You guys are the only ones who think you're going to get away from it somehow. I feel this very acutely, certainly as a Canadian. I think most people do. Like everywhere we go, there you guys are. You're in the culture. Your politics have taken over. Your food, your branding. Jesus, you're everywhere. You travel, like literally and figuratively, you guys are everywhere. And you fundamentally change how other cities look and run. I mean, there was just a big story about Mexico City and how much it has changed because Americans have gone there. I went there a couple of years ago, walked around and was like, oh, word. So it's Park Slope, but hot? Why am I here? I completely get why women are saying this more than men, certainly. This is a country that is built and designed for men more than anybody. I would be so curious to know further breakdowns of who these women are, who they are racially, who they are in class. Because if it's white women who are saying it, that's interesting. And that's like a different conversation than black and brown women who are saying, I've had enough and I'm thinking about going somewhere that understands me better.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really great point. We actually did reach out to Gallup to see what maybe the racial breakdown might be as far as like who's saying this. They didn't have enough like data to really call it in any one direction as far as a sort of racial breakdown among young American women. But they said, from reviewing the data we have, there are no statistically significant differences between younger women across racial groups. So it seems like across the board, the girlies are like, we're done. And I'll say, to that point, the gap that currently exists between young men and young women on this sentiment, it seems like that gap started forming around 2017, which obviously coincides with Trump's first presidential term. Now, I want to say there's another part of this that I thought was really interesting. According to Gallup, across ages and genders, Americans with lower confidence in institutions are, quote, consistently more likely to express a desire to leave the country. Over the past decade, younger women have not only shown the largest increase in wanting to move abroad, but have also experienced the steepest drop in institutional confidence of any age or gender group, end quote. What do you think has caused that?
Where to start?
What do I think?
Any clues? Any clues?
Oh, Christ. I mean, like, everything. I think what's happened, saliently what happened in 2016, 2017, is that white women lost confidence in those institutions. I think a lot of the rest of us sort of saw what some of the gaps were. I think certainly, you know, some of it, I had hope. I think we all had hope, and we sort of believed, like, I never really thought, like, oh, I'm going to have to live in a world where Roe versus Wade is, like, not the law of the land. That for sure is something I took for granted as a younger person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the row of all of it is very salient and notably something that is specific to America. Like, a lot of countries have been going through right-wing populist backlash, but there are actually only 4 countries that have started rollbacks of abortion rights. It's Nicaragua, El Salvador, Poland, and the US. And losing a right that you're born with, you know, it makes a lot of sense to me that you would want to go somewhere that it feels more guaranteed and isn't being pushed back the way that we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, as you both said, I think the overturning of Roe v. Wade a couple of years ago was big. But the other thing I've been thinking about is Me Too. I think that, like, when you look at, like, the long arc of Me Too, I think there are many people who expressed seeing many failures, especially, like, a failure to connect this, like, kind of Hollywood-based, entertainment-based conversation to the working lives of everyday women. But it's undeniable that it really, I'd be lying if I said that it didn't kick off a truly deeply national conversation around sexual assault and sexual harassment. But at the end of the day, it hasn't necessarily changed materially that much for a lot of women. And I think that, like, when you hear how the public responds to that, even thinking about the allegations against Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, I saw a lot of pretty immediate downplaying of even things we could see with our own 2 eyes, like the video that appeared to show Combs attacking the singer Cassie in a hotel hallway. You know, he's got a lot of civil cases against him, but he was recently convicted of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. But, like, seeing how people respond to that and to other prominent credible allegations of abuse, you know, there are still just a lot of everyday people that cast doubt on the idea that we have a serious problem with violence against women in this country and in this world. And I can also see that being very disheartening as a young person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like there was this enormous mess under the rug and we, like, pulled back the rug to show it and everyone was like, oh, are we going to get rid of the mess? And then we were like, what if we just put the rug back?
What if we got a bigger rug?
And I can certainly see why being confronted with the reality of systems of sexual violence in this country and then seeing that no one was really going to do anything about it would make you feel like, well, surely there must be some place where they figured this out, right?
Coming up,
someone has to be able to give young women a understanding of what the world could look like and what this country could look like that they could imagine living a good life in.
Stick around.
This message comes from LinkedIn, who knows how even one hiring nightmare can ruin your small business dreams. That's why LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant uses insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a personalized shortlist of the best applicants, and even finds candidates you would have otherwise missed, so you can hire right the first time. Start hiring with LinkedIn and post your job for free today at linkedin.com/NPR.
This message comes from Jerry. Many people are overpaying on car insurance. Why? Switching providers can be a pain. Jerry helps make the process painless. Jerry is the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/NPR. This message comes from Allianz Travel Insurance. You've packed your bags, booked your flights, and you're all set for the beach resort vacation of your dreams. Then you see the nightmare weather forecast. You were hoping for hurricane cocktails, not an actual hurricane. Always make sure travel insurance is a part of your packing list. Trip cancellation benefits might be your silver lining when all you see is clouds. Learn more at AllianzTravelInsurance.com.
We're excited to share that in celebration of her 50th anniversary hosting Fresh Air, Terry Gross will be a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Tune in on Thursday, January 8th on CBS.
So, Sachi, you co-hosted a podcast for the BBC called Where to Be a Woman. I wonder, Sachi, what makes a place good for women?
I mean, on the show, we looked at a lot of different factors. Some of them were pretty obvious, like postnatal care, access to education, post-secondary education, how many women are in executive level positions in the private sector, in the public sector, how many elected officials are women. Anytime we were talking about stuff that was really structural and about like money or things that have been legislated for women, every time it was in Europe. And then we would have like a couple of outliers. Like we did one episode that was about body image. We came up with St. Lucia.
Ooh.
And we talked to a lot of women there who talked about how they have a particular relationship with their bodies and their size and their shades and their hair and the relationship that men have with their bodies in public, the conversations they have about catcalling versus a compliment. It's just a completely different social dynamic. I don't think it is for everybody, but it is interesting to think about as a local. Like they seem to have a completely different relationship with self than we do. But when I think about it now, the thing that we kept kind of finding and that I consistently find in all of my work is that the greatest threat to women is men. And so anywhere there are men that don't know how to behave, that's a really lousy place for women to be.
I feel like there's men that don't know how to behave everywhere.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So again, to go back to everywhere we go, there you are. The reality is American politics have become inextricable with gender politics and how traditional male roles and how they run the family and how they run women. It's not shocking that then that would feed into how women feel about the country and about these people institutionally, and then would look elsewhere. But the reality is elsewhere is also like that in a lot of ways, and that will still infiltrate your life no matter what.
But Sachi, I will say you've also come here from another country, Canada, which is actually the top country that young women cite that they'd like to leave for.
Yeah.
Let the people know. Is it better in Canada?
Some things are, for sure. A lot of it isn't. So for sure, what's better? Health insurance. I never paid for anything. We don't have gun culture in the way that you have here. Gun violence is not as present at all. But culturally, I think there are a lot of similarities. And I moved here because undoubtedly the United States still has a stranglehold over the concept of upward mobility, being culturally relevant, and of being able to make money. People come here because the income remains high comparatively. Yeah. That is why. As soon as that changes, that's when people will really start to leave.
To that point, I wonder, like, you know, when people think about moving to other countries and going other places, I mean, you brought up Mexico City as an example, Sachi. The droves, frankly, of Americans moving down there for what they see as a comparatively better lifestyle, but like probably because the dollar is stronger than the peso. I imagine that has a lot to do with it. I wonder, like, are things better in some other countries for expats just because they're American expats?
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about a lot, and it makes me think that the desire to leave the country is kind of like a left-wing cosmopolitan answer to like the fantasy of the trad wife, right? It's all about this idea of the soft life, of having a better work-life balance and getting to spend time with your family and live somewhere beautiful and not worry about like the rat race and getting promoted and dealing with corporate America. That comes with all these stressors and pressures. And I think part of the desire for a lot of people is like, what if I just got out and went somewhere where life was easier?
I smell what you're stepping in, Constance, with that. I'll say this entire conversation, it does kind of seem to speak to something bigger that I'm seeing among American women, which is that they're looking to marry less than they used to. Women are kind of quiet quitting traditional American life as it's been defined by previous generations. And it seems like a lot of them are fantasizing about hard quitting too. I don't know. I could see those two things being connected.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what Sachi was saying about how the biggest problem for women is always men. And right now, the manosphere is like so loud here. And so many figures are just constantly telling men that they need to degrade women and put them in their place. I think all the time about the phrase, your body, my choice, trending after the 2024 election. That feels super dystopian. And I think the idea of being like, maybe men are better somewhere else. Like, I can understand having that desire and that fantasy.
What does this say about our culture or even the country's future that so many young women are down to leave?
I mean, I have a Debbie Downer take, which is that I think a lot of women have gotten to that point where they're like, there isn't a way to fix this. That level of hatred for half of the world is so deep here. Of course, the impulse will be like, what's the point? I get that impulse.
What this trend says to me is that increasingly young women are having a really hard time imagining their future in this country. Since so much of the party mechanism on the left is the power is concentrated among much older people who haven't been able to necessarily demonstrate a vision for the future. And I think that's something that really needs to develop and change. Someone has to be able to give young women a understanding of what the world could look like and what this country could look like that they could imagine living a good life in if we want them to continue to participate in the fabric of the country.
Sachi, Constance, I appreciate you coming back.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That was Constance Grady, senior correspondent for Vox's Culture Team, and Sachi Kool, senior writer at Slate. So you all know I love hearing from you. And over the past few weeks, some of you have left the sweetest notes for me in the comments and reviews. One of y'all wrote, "This podcast makes me smile, think, and feel grateful for all who make it possible." Me too. Another wrote, "This is my favorite podcast produced by NPR." Me too. Another wrote, "Thanks for enriching my life." You guys, I'm blushing. And if any of those comments resonate with you, I would love, love, love it if you rated and reviewed this show wherever you're listening. It helps other people find the show, and that means this community we're building will get even bigger. So join the team. Rate and review this show right now. And thank you. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Liam McBain.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Aaron Edwards.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Jerry. Are you tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/NPR today.
This message comes from NetSuite. Every business is asking, how can they make AI work for them? No more waiting. With NetSuite by Oracle, you can put AI to work today. Trusted by over 43,000 businesses, it's the unified suite that brings your financials, inventory, commerce, HR, and CRM into a single source of truth. That connected data is what makes your AI smarter, helping you make fast decisions. Right now, get the business guide, Demystifying AI, free at netsuite.com/story.